This past Sunday, we all witnessed one of the scariest NASCAR crashes in a long time. And apparently, no one knows exactly why it happened. And the conspiracy theories are running wild. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, midweek edition of the show. We've got a lot to get to. You know, when I began doing this show a few years ago, back when I was in college, I never anticipated this becoming a daily upload kind of thing. Of course, plans change and I'm not in school anymore, so that freed up some time, but the news cycle the past few weeks has been inexplicable. Not just in NASCAR, of course, this is primarily a NASCAR show, but if you follow open wheel racing, domestic or international, things have been nuts over there as well. We're focusing on NASCAR news here today. We have a few stories to touch on. And actually, one story is not explicitly NASCAR related, but should be a fun one. So let's get started. I saw an article from the Tennessean yesterday. We've referenced them a few times when talking about Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway and SMI's quest to bring NASCAR back to the facility. We're not talking about that though. This was an interesting quote I saw from Jimmy Johnson in the Tennessean, talking a little about his IndyCar schedule and if he would consider coming back to NASCAR, maybe for a one-off sometime soon. Johnson said, "I'm open to going back to NASCAR. I don't see myself on a full-time schedule, but if the right opportunity came along, you know, I love driving and I still want to drive, I just don't want that NASCAR full-time schedule. Even the IndyCar full-time schedule is a bit of a stretch. This year with IndyCar and IMSA, I'm at 21 races and I'm feeling a little more busy than I want to be." That last sentence, very interesting. Jimmy, of course, running IndyCars now for the second year in a row. This is his first full-time season. He's run the ovals, had a top 5 at Iowa a couple weeks ago, had a 6th place run at Texas, had some good oval runs, still trying to figure out the road courses. But you hear him talking about the rigorous IndyCar schedule, and that, of course, does not compare to the draining 38-week plus NASCAR schedule. But he keeps the door open. It's always fun to check in and see what Jimmy Johnson's thinking. He's open to potentially running a one-off or part-time NASCAR schedule once again. Obviously, the next-gen car is a completely different beast. I don't think Johnson's run a next-gen car. I don't even think he did any of the testing. Most of the testing happened in 2021. He was already basically an open-wheel driver with Ganassi at that point. But I don't know for sure. Of course, everyone looks at the Trackhouse Project 91 car that is set to make its debut later this summer at Watkins Glen with former F1 star Kimi Räikkönen behind the wheel. But going forward into 2023 and beyond, that could be a likely landing place for a one-off Jimmy Johnson start, maybe here or there. We'll see. I don't mean to give Jimmy Johnson fans false hope. I love what he's been attempting to do in IndyCar. He's had some great moments. He's a world-class driver who's still capable of driving race cars really, really fast. As long as he's capable, I want to see him race as much as possible. As a fan, I want to see him attempt the impossible. Like, I want to see him do the Coke 600 Indy 500 double. Not that that's impossible, but it would be difficult. And I think Jimmy Johnson's the kind of guy up to the task. So I hope he's considering another NASCAR run sometime in the near future. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that little brief Jimmy Johnson check-in. Now let's check in on North Wilkesboro Speedway. Last night, North Wilkesboro opened its gates once again, part of the racetrack revival program that was announced at the beginning of this year. Racing was back at the historic short track last night, and Ryan Newman wheeled his modified to a victory. Several NASCAR drivers in the field, Ryan Preece, Bobby Labonte, of course, but it was Ryan Newman who took the checkered flag in front of a sellout North Wilkesboro Speedway crowd. That's pretty darn cool right there. North Wilkesboro's got more racing coming up later this summer, and then they're actually going to turn that track into a dirt track. They're going to tear up the old asphalt and they'll race dirt for a little while before, I believe, next year repaving the entire facility and turning it back into an asphalt short track. They haven't been particularly shy. They have made it clear they want to bring NASCAR back to Wilkesboro at some point in the near future. Maybe trucks is the only likely option. But one thing's for sure, last night, North Wilkesboro Speedway still has a fervent fan base. Maybe not the largest in the world, but enough to fill the, maybe close to 10,000 seats? I didn't get an exact estimate from last night, but I mean, that looks great. The photos, the video clips look incredible. The atmosphere looks electric. Really cool to see. And actually, while we're talking about North Wilkesboro, let's talk about a race coming up in a few weeks. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Revealed yesterday that he will race at North Wilkesboro August 31st in this beautiful Sundrop late model. Sundrop back as a sponsor. This is an identical paint scheme to the one Dale Jr. raced in 1993 when he competed at North Wilkesboro Speedway. We know Dale Jr. loves his NASCAR history. He's a student of the sport. This is a pretty awesome throwback. I know he's going to sell a ton of t-shirts. I think I even saw they're offering some form of die cast for it. Gonna sell a lot. Dale Jr.'s name alone is enough to turn heads, but when he puts the work in and comes up with a creative throwback homage like this, getting the actual sponsor back on board, people are going to lose their minds. I don't blame them. Junior Nation's got to be excited about this. Junior back in the 3 with those classic green and yellow citrusy colors later this month at North Wilkesboro Speedway. That's really, really cool. Obviously, Junior's been integral in getting North Wilkesboro back, getting it back in front of national media through the help of iRacing, and now, of course, Real Race Cars back. A lot of this would not be possible without the work and the publicity Dale Jr. has put into the facility the last few years. So pretty cool to see. Just wanted to spotlight that on the show. I wanted to save this for last because I don't really know where this conversation is going to go. And I know this is mainly a unidirectional conversation. I read the vast majority of your comments, but obviously I can't read them right now. So I try to plan out what I'm going to say before each episode, but with this topic, I don't know. We'll see where this heads. Sunday afternoon, we saw Kyle Larson's number 5, Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, go careening off course heading into turn 1. He took out Ty Dillon. Massive impact. Both drivers were able to get out of their cars. Larson actually went over and checked and talked to Ty Dillon. Both drivers seemed okay, but man, a scary crash, especially for a road course. Everyone assumed in the moment that, oh, he must have had some sort of brake failure, or maybe the throttle hung. Both things that aren't very common, but are certainly possible. But many fans have begun to notice some inconsistencies. For one, obviously, on TV, NBC played a radio transmission from Kyle Larson shortly after the wreck where he told his crew he has a pedal, meaning he has brakes. Now, unclear if he had brakes during the impact. We'll talk about that in a second. Of course, they also played radio transmission between Larson and Cliff Daniels a few laps before the wreck took place. Cliff Daniels radioed, "Just confirming that your brake fans are on." And Larson responded, "Yeah, I'm just standing on the pedal really hard though." That sounds like evidence his brakes were fading on him until suddenly they came back. I don't know. We also know that Kyle Larson made pretty significant contact with Eric Almirola earlier in the race, so maybe some damage on the front end there. Cut something, broke something, maybe that led to and contributed to whatever parts failure caused this crash. Or did it? Because Bob Pockers from Fox Sports reached out to Hendrick Motorsports, and Hendrick Motorsports iterated to him that they don't believe any parts failed. This was not a mechanical failure, not a brake failure, not a throttle issue. Here's what Bob Pockers tweeted earlier this week. Checked with Hendrick Motorsports and they didn't see any sign of brake failure in the Larson car following the wreck. No mechanical failure. So you're telling me Larson just thought they were on the oval or something and went flying through the turn on purpose? Like, how does a driver even make a mistake that big? Unclear. Of course, many fans were questioning, how can this be possible? Bob Pockers reiterated, Hendrick has said no mechanical failures found. They also would have the data that would potentially show a mechanical failure. Indicates a mistake by Larson. Boy, that would have to be some pretty major mistake made by the defending series champion. Something seems off about this whole ordeal. Now, I'll talk about some of the conspiracy theories that have been fueled by fans across social media the last couple days, but what I believe the leading theory is, and likely was the cause of that major crash, was that the brakes just overheated. Brake fluid got too hot, temporarily went out on Larson, and then came back shortly afterwards once they'd had, a chance to cool off. We saw drivers overshooting turn 1 routinely without any sort of brake failure. So if Larson had overcooked his brakes, which seems to be indicated by the fact that his crew chief was asking about turning on the brake fans earlier in the run, perhaps the hot brakes plus the already difficult turn 1 combined to create this monstrous incident that we all saw. That seems to be the leading theory. It seems to make the most sense, but there's still some conspiracies out there that I don't like to give any credibility to unfounded conspiracy theories, but there are a couple of interesting details worth mentioning in this case. For one, if the brakes simply overheated a little bit, why would Hendrick Motorsports not come out and say that? Why would they insist that there were no mechanical issues whatsoever and indicate that Kyle Larson, their driver, made a mistake? Feels like they could be a little clearer. And two, Kyle Larson didn't speak to the media, did not go on TV and do an infield care center interview after the wreck. Ty Dillon did, but Kyle Larson, it was reported, wanted to go speak to his team and did that instead. Those couple of details have caused many, and I mean many on social media, even many in my comments of my last video that had nothing to do with this topic. It has them speculating that maybe Hendrick was trying something a little outside the box, a little outside the ordinary, maybe a little outside the rule book. And, once obviously everything went bad, they wanted to kind of pack up and get out of there without answering too many questions or shedding any additional light on this incident. I don't know. Again, I'm not one to lend support to unfounded conspiracy theories, but we did talk in yesterday's video about Brad Keselowski's recent comments, where he said that NASCAR needs to be handing out a ton more penalties, handing them out like they're candy, which seemed to suggest he thinks there are a lot of top teams out there bending the rules with this new next-gen spec car. Could they be connected? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Chances are, brakes just overheated. Honest mistake. Happens sometimes. This was just a glaring example that led to a scary and dangerous incident. I only know what you all know by reading Twitter and reading news articles. So as Hendrick Motorsports says there wasn't a mechanical failure, maybe they're telling the truth. But it is curious. Very, very curious. Like I said at the beginning, one of the scariest incidents, wrecks we've seen all year, and no one knows exactly why it happened. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think Hendrick Motorsports is hiding something, or do you think it was just an honest mistake? Maybe there was a parts failure the team doesn't want to talk about. They're trying to save face. They don't want to be known as the team who let their guys' brakes fail on him. I don't know. Let me know down in the comment section below. I also want to hear your thoughts on all the North Wilkesboro stuff, a really awesome reopening for that racetrack, and then of course, Jimmy Johnson's future. Would you like to see him back in NASCAR? Think he'll ever actually do it? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss any future uploads. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. I couldn't do this show without your continued support each and every month. I greatly appreciate it. Busy week. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode, likely sooner rather than later. Thanks for watching.